So imagine it's 2002 in New York City. Mr. Lassi Sherpa, the founder of Sherpa FMCG here, well, eventual founder of Sherpa FMCG here, is walking down Fifth Avenue in New York City. Fifth Avenue in New York City is like the Rama Market of New York City. He passes by a news agent. You know what a news agent is? He has magazines and newspapers up on the walls, maybe selling cigarettes, chewing gum, that sort of thing. So Mr. Sherpa is walking by, and then his eyes stop at a magazine cover of a Sherpa. He goes to the newsstand, picks up the magazine, and then flips through the pages. And he realizes the man on the cover is actually his cousin, his relative. The whole magazine is about the Sherpas from Nepal. How hardworking they are, how reliable they are, how strong they are, how loyal they are, that sort of thing. And then he thinks, He goes home, and then he has an epiphany. Now let me sort of move back to late 70s, early 80s in Kathmandu. Again, Mr. Sherpa, Lassi Sherpa, newly married in Kathmandu, is looking for a job. He gets along with a few other friends, and together they start a business, a garment/apparel business. And in the late 70s, early 80s, the thing was, Kathmandu was booming in terms of carpet exports, in terms of garment exports. And Mr. Sherpa became friends with people who were in the garment business. He was a young graduate from India. He went to the US for his higher studies, came back to Nepal, got married, and wanted to get into a business. So he started learning about the garment trade, where to source, how to design, how to cut patterns, how to put it all together, and how to export to India. From there on, the stuff going to the US, Canada, so on and so forth. For the next 10 years, till 1989, he learned the craft of the trade, step by step, knowing what it took to make a shirt, pants, that sort of thing. So it was a business. He was not a garment person. He sort of fell into it, learned the trade, and then grew within the trade. In late 1980s, he moved to the US with his family, to Seattle of all places, in Washington. And if you go to Seattle, it's such a lovely city. People are outdoors all the time, fresh water all around. It's like a very smarter, more developed version of Kathmandu actually. People are jogging on the trails, greenery all around, that sort of thing. So then Seattle is also home to many mountaineers, many outdoorsy kind of people, so on and so forth. And Mr. Sherpa, he started another clothing line business in the US. He was happy. Time passed by, 20 years went by. Until that fateful day in 2002, when he was walking down Fifth Avenue and came upon that cover. So the epiphany he had when he went home was this. I'm Lassi Sherpa. I've been in the business for 20 plus years. I know everything that is to be learned about this business, how it's done, that sort of thing. What if I pivot my business to focus on outdoor gear from Nepal? Now think, he was not a new entrepreneur trying to go and get into a new business. He was an established entrepreneur who already knew the trade very, very well. Maybe he had, learned a few things more perhaps, but he was nonetheless very experienced. The idea was, what if I pivot and try to compete with the big guys, North Face, Patagonia, Mountain Hardwear, that sort of people. He thought about it for a while, and then he came to Nepal. He had a business going in Nepal as well, so he was doing back and forth. And in 2003 May, he started Sherpa Adventure Gear, 200 meters from this very place in Latin Park, not too far from here. So basically what he had was 4 machines, 3 workers, and then a bunch of stuff from North Face, Patagonia, and they sort of like tore them apart and started understanding how do these big guys make outdoor gear. Next. So for 2 years, he spent his own hard-earned money to develop, design, and to figure out how do you do the sourcing from South Korea, from China, from Taiwan, from around the world to get the finest fabric that you can get to make outdoor gear to be made in Nepal. The workers had to be trained. The pattern master had to rewire his brain, so to speak, to make new patterns and so forth. So basically, the idea was to make mountaineering gear from Nepal. And then he went to the US, sold a few samples to his friends in Seattle. They liked what they saw. They said, Tashi, why don't we make some more? So he made some more, and then 2 years went by until 2005. Suddenly, Sherpa Adventure Gear was a real small business out of Nepal selling stuff in Seattle. And if you meet Mr. Tashi Sherpa, I'm so sorry that he's not here today. He's a very charming fellow. You know, I joke with him that, he's somebody who can sell snow to the Eskimos. People in Seattle loved him. They said, Tashi, you're from Nepal, we love your products, what can we do more? So suddenly he had friends who had left Nordstrom, he had friends who had left North Face, Patagonia. They came and worked with him as a team. So suddenly, from a 4-person team in Seattle as well, he had an expansion in the group. Designers came, marketing people came, a lot of other people came, people with talents, people with a lot of experience. They love the idea of Nepal. They love the idea that something like this could come out of Nepal, and they want to help us succeed. And Tashi was the linchpin. So basically, they all put together new designs. They went to the marketing shows, trade shows, started finding out new customers, and so forth. And then the brand just grew and grew and grew. Next. Initially, they started with mountaineering wear. Now why? Because imagine you're up in the mountains. It's very cold. You might die if you don't have good gear. The gear has to be light, easy to be packed. It has to be comfortable. It has to keep you warm. But more importantly, it has to keep you alive. You have to, when you climb up the Everest, you reach the top, you enjoy the scene, you take a photograph, maybe your selfie, and then climb down safely to Kathmandu, I suppose. The idea was, if this small company out of Nepal can produce gear that is so safe, so comfortable, that company can also produce other gear for trekking, for hiking, for lifestyle, for other stuff. So that was mountaineering gear was actually, it had a signaling effect to the market. These guys do mountaineering gear very, very well. Therefore, they must do other gear, related gear, very, very well too. So then, Tashi started expanding the product line. From 2005 to 2007, the company grew. From 2009, they moved out of Lalin Pass because they needed more space, and they moved to Jainapal, next to the place next to Jainapal, and they wanted to open up a store. Again, Tashi being Tashi, Sherpa Adventure Gear being Sherpa Adventure Gear, a friend came out of Seattle to help open the retail store. He said, look, this is how a retail store is operated. It is how you put together your clothes, your merchandising. When the season change, you have to change things. So we trained the Nepali storekeepers basically to how to jazz up the store. Now, when you walk into that store, and this, somebody told me last year, actually, the BBC journalist who had come here to do some earthquake-related reports. He came to our store, and he told me, Ashu, nothing like this store exists in all of South Asia. That's what he said. I haven't been to all of South Asia, but I believe that. The point here is, when you have a brand that has a lot of potential, a lot of people help you. They donate their time, they donate their advice, they donate their connections. When we in Nepal can make use of that, and Tashi Sherpa was no exception, and Sherpa Adventure Gear was no exception. So, from mountaineering gear to the kind of clothes I'm wearing today, outdoor lifestyle sort of gear, I know that it's very comfortable. Rather than suiting myself up, I thought I would wear the brand and be here. So the opportunities were limitless. From 2010 to 2014, the company grew even more. We were selling stuff in 21 countries, in 500 stores around the world. When I met Mr. Binod Chaudhary a few weeks ago, one of the first things he said was, I was in Chile, and when I came out of a hotel, there was a big store, outdoor store, that was selling Sherpa stuff. And I was so proud that something made in Nepal was being sold in Santiago, Chile. No, I was very, very happy. That's Nepal, of course. So, but how did that happen? But again, getting the American know-how about branding, marketing, helping, working with those guys, and then helping them to spread the message all over the world. There are sales reps everywhere in the world, in Europe, in South Asia, in Southeast Asia, Latin America, and so forth. And they are always looking for the brand that they can sell. And most of the sales representatives, they identify with the brand. They love the idea that they do something out of the country of Everest. Outdoor gear of highest quality would come and they could sell and tell stories about it and so on. Next. in 2014, I was asked to come on board to manage the Nepal side of operations. I had no background in gardening, craft, or all that. I was more of a professional CEO, so to speak. I'm somebody people hire when they want to improve their processes, their systems, their mechanics of the business, so on and so forth. So Tashi was a good friend of mine, social friend. And then I said, look, why do you want to hire me? What value I can possibly bring? He said, you don't need to learn the garden, because there are other people who are that much better than you, but then we need the management know-how. What I want you to do is come in, bring in the know-how, hire good people, so that we can take the company to the next level. So that's how, after I left my job in 2014, the other job that I was doing at the time, came to Sherpa Adventure Gear. And since then, my job has been about putting together systems, processes, compliance procedures, and all the nitty-gritty nuts and bolts to make sure that company is poised for further growth in coming times. Because what is happening now? Previously, we were a small brand. People loved us the way you love a family restaurant in Patan. You like the mother, the husband is nice, the children are playing, they serve nice bara, you like that. But as you grow, our competitors are also taking note of us. They're saying, okay, Sherpa Adventure Gear, where is your factory? Who makes your clothes? Are they paid well? Is there child labor? Are you running sweatshops in Nepal? What's going on? Competitors ask all these questions, and our customers and buyers are also asking all these questions. So as a result, our game has to be much, much, much higher now. We cannot just hide behind Nepal excuse, this, that, and the rest of it. So we cannot do that. So for that, we have to have processes and systems, otherwise the brand promise, which I'll talk about in a second, will not come true. Other challenges. Last year, there was an earthquake. We lost 3 months of production. I was on the phone, on Skype actually, with many buyers in the UK and the US, telling them that shipments were going to be delayed. It was a very, very stressful time. But then no sooner had we come out of the earthquake-related effects, so to speak, than the blockade started, 6 months long. That completely messed up our supply chain system. And again, Nepal being a landlocked country, we have to have absolutely critically safe supply chain systems, which you don't have. It's very difficult to do world-class manufacturing from Nepal. Not the fault of the people. People are hardworking, nice, trainable, coachable. But the systems are such that, to compete globally in a time-sensitive industry as this is very, 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 very difficult. You're always on Skype asking for extensions from your buyers. And likewise, other things, the government. Government understands that, brand is necessary, but doesn't necessarily have all the processes in place to help you grow. So we have a full-time government relations person whose job is to make sure that the government is happy, whatever that means. So these are some of the challenges of coming up with a brand that is rooted in Nepal. Next. So the 3 lessons that I have drawn, or we have drawn out of Sherpa's story is that present Nepal as a strength. Nepal is not India. Nepal is not China. Whatever we can do, China can do it cheaper at a much higher scale. Whatever we can do, India can do it much better at a much cheaper scale, so to speak. So where is Nepal's advantage? The mountains, the hills, the harsh terrain, the difficulties. We can sell this. We can brand this. Just like, we can brand momos as global foods, perhaps. So it's like selling Nepal as a strength. This is a country that is comfortable being comfortable as a Nepali, as a country. And then continuously offer high-end value. One thing I've realized, initially I was a customer of Sherpa. I used to buy my stuff once in a while, but I always wondered, who buys these 26,000 rupees sweaters? Are they real people? Now I've met lots of them actually. In the sense that there are many people in Kathmandu who actually buy 26,000 rupee worth of sweaters. Single sweater, made in Kitipur, and then put together at one of the factories. And it keeps you warm, even in freezing Antarctic weather, it keeps you very, very warm. And there are actually people who buy that. Not because they like the brand per se, but they like the value it offers. Light, easy to wear, stylish, full of good designs, made in Nepal, what's not to love about it? And the third thing is, be consistently reliable on delivery. The brand is a brand only good as what it delivers, when, and how consistently. I like what my earlier speaker was talking about. Consistency is supremely important. Delivery on time. And most Nepali brands have a hard time scaling high because delivery is always a problem. Next. So, for Nepali brands, and one other brand I can think of is Dwarika's Hotel. Mrs. Amika Shrestha and her family members have done an excellent job. There is nothing like Dwarika Hotel in the entire world. It is uniquely Nepali style, Nepali architecturally refined hotel. And you go to Dwarika, they charge arms and a leg actually. It's very expensive because they offer very high-end value. And then people are happy to pay. The hotel is always booked. Solti doesn't come close, Yakaniti doesn't come close. I'm not going to talk about Addison, but Dwarika is like, again, rooted in Nepali context. Very proud of being a Nepali product, and then selling it at a high-end value, and then consistently delivering high-end services 24/7, 365. That is the game that Nepali brands have to play if we are to go to the global scale. One more thing. Nepalis alone cannot do it. That's my thinking. I've looked at Sherpa, and I'm glad that we have a design team in Seattle. These designers in Seattle, they have tattoos, they have like nose rings, what have you, but they are very, very creative. They go to trade shows, they pick up signals, they look at the trends coming up, and they come back to the design room and they design. AutoCAD, a lot of design software that we use, and they say these are the stuff that's going to sell in the next fall season or the spring summer season and so forth. And they bring a lot of ideas, and that gets further improved by our UK team and our Switzerland team and so on and so forth. So a lot of people add more ideas to the mix. And by the time our Nepali designers, educated in Nepal, trained in Nepal, get into the act, they already have access to some of the finest brains in design. A lot of capital to grow globally because capital is not easily available in Nepal. And we have to, our marketing muscle has to be much bigger, which we don't have in Nepal, so to speak. So we are now sort of like, looking around to partner with other companies so that we can take the brand global. So that, let's say, in 3 years from now, 5 years from now, anywhere in the world that you walk in, major cities, there is an outdoor store that has 3 or 4 cells dedicated to Sherpa from Nepal. Thank you.